There's your pineapple sage. Why is it pineapple sage? I don't think it particularly smells like pineapple. The flowers sure don't smell like pineapple. Anyway, it's election day, and while Gus is on the loose, we have a corner of the fence where there's this overgrown forsythia, and it's got a lot of branches, and he likes to get in there and find whatever's fallen. He likes to bite through some of the branches, and I put him in there, and I think I made a mistake of saying, "Okay, come here," and he realized that he had it free. Usually there's so much branches that he can't really just jump out of there fast. I see him, and I can just stand right there where he comes out and grab his leash. But today I don't know, maybe I gave him the clip. Maybe he doesn't know he's not on that I don't have control of the leash when I let him go into that corner there where he's sort of backed in. And anyway, he's loose. So today's first reading is a letter to Titus, and Paul is telling Titus, or the men, or he's telling them to follow the doctrine that he gave him, and that old men should be dignified, and old women should be, I forget the word he used, but he gives a bunch of descriptions. So the men should be dignified and hold their tongue or whatever. Anyway, so should give a good example. The old men and the old women should give a good example. And it next says that the women should teach the old women should teach the young women how to, in those days, be a wife was what a woman actually, what men and women are made for is men to be husbands and women to be wives. Men to do whatever it is that men do, and women... there's a horn honk. I hope it's not Gus in the street. He went out that way. And women to... Obviously, a woman is the only one who can birth a child. So... and nurse a child. And so it just seems natural and obvious that she would be the one who tends to the child while the child is nursing. What's that, 2 years, sometimes more? So it's just logical. I mean, logic. It's just logical that women would take care of the children, generally speaking. In most instances, obviously there's always going to be some kind of a weird what-if scenario, like I've talked about yesterday, what-ifs. So in the letter to Titus, he's telling him to train the old men and the old women, to train the young men and the young women how to be old men and old women, responsible and nurturing. And then the psalm, I don't remember, it's Psalm 37. That's all I know. And the gospel story today is this Luke, chapter 17, I think, where, oh boy, no, I forgot. It was one I didn't really can't articulate, or I don't understand it completely. What was it? Oh boy. Jesus says, enjoy the pineapple sage. Let's go give a call to Gus while I rack my brain. So today's gospel, Jesus. See, the problem with Gus being loose, he's on the chain, on his leash. So his leash could get tangled up in a branch and he could just be standing there. I don't know if he'd bark or how, yeah. He comes right up here and right out there. We'll probably be able to see him because there's less. We might be able to see him because there's less brush. Gus! Gus! Come! Come! Gus! There's a house through those woods there. And they used to have chickens. And I'm always worried that he's going to get over to the chickens. That could be a problem. So what was the gospel? The gospel today Jesus talks about Jesus does something and the Pharisees complain. Well, anyway, today's voting day. I'm going to vote, and the lottery is way up there, so I put some tickets in on the lottery, and I'm going to, if I win this big, huge lottery, I am going to try to help the country by thinking of a way to help educate. I think education is one of the biggest things we need. Obviously, the education system, you're on one side or the other of how our school system is educating our children, and what is their business and what is not their business. I don't know that. I know some parents don't talk to their kids about, say, for example, sex, but I don't know what the schools. Anyway, Gus! What I would do if I win that lottery, at least a big chunk, of course I'm gonna build me a hot rod, but while there's still gas to burn. Anyway, I would try to see if I can help the United States and the world to understand the logic of Christianity, and that there is historical evidence of Jesus. I was listening to a video today about people not believing that there was a King David, and how there's archaeological findings every day, and big ones, obviously proving that there is. People want to disprove the Jews' existence in Jerusalem. I guess that'd be the Muslims, mostly. And it's obvious that they were there. And it's obvious they were there first. And it's obviously we were there second. And not that necessarily I'm saying that all the Arab world, which was Christian at one point, should be Christian again, but to not deny the fact that it was, and to not deny the fact that it was conquered by violence, not by The Catholic Church can't compel you to become Catholic. That's not permitted, to force you. Now, have certain people over the years maybe done questionable things? Of course. But the Church's teaching is that you can't be forced. But I don't believe that's the case in Islam. You look it up. Tell me I'm wrong. And so, so there was a King David, there was a Jesus, and I just want people to know this was a nation. I don't know if it was a Christian nation, but it was a nation found by Christians, different denominations, and I think the Catholic Church was here as well. So I think Baltimore used to be big Catholic, or maybe Calvert County, I don't know. I might be wrong on that one. But I just want people to know the truth. But this is such a messed up time in our society. You can tell people the truth, and we are in a difficult time. A very mixed up time where you can tell people the truth, and if they just don't want to believe it, so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? You just live with the consequences. So let's say tomorrow the people decided that murder was okay. Well, obviously it's not okay to go around murdering people, but what if the consensus of the people is that murder is okay? So we just all have to just live with that. I mean, that would be an unjust law. And I think there's something in the Catholic faith that talks about you don't have to follow an unjust law. I think there's something about that. Look it up. And so, to what degree, to what lengths do we go when society has lost their minds? When they tell you a boy is actually a girl and a girl is actually a boy. When they tell you that a man and a man can be married, that's not marriage. That may be a civil union, that may be a union, that may be a friendship, but it's not marriage. Marriage is a man and a woman coming together before God and country, or just country if it's a civil marriage, and vowing to take care of each other and whatever offspring comes from their union. That's what marriage is. So obviously that doesn't match up to a woman and a woman or a man and a man. So we've just, what about the United States should be socialist? Have you lost your mind? We've been fighting ideas like that practically since the country, at least for 100 years, fighting ideas like that. And now you want to make us like that? My country is, and I think it's our generation's fault. Those who had children who are now 20, 30, and I guess even 40. It's our fault that we didn't train our children well enough, like we heard about in Titus. So train your children, be responsible citizens. Pass this video on. Anybody who gets this video, pass it on to 10 people. And then I won't have to spend my lottery earnings. Jesus rose. There are witnesses. If he rose from the dead, he's probably who he said he was, the Son of God. If there's a God and Jesus and there's an afterlife, then everything we do factors into that. Everything we do in our living life. And that changes everything. That changes everything. And that's what I want my country to know. That you may not believe now, but look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. witnesses. If there was a murder committed and there were witnesses who saw it, that would be good enough. But obviously, this is, whether or not there is a God or not, is a little bigger than one man's murder. That man's murder is bigger than any one other man's murder, because that man is God and man at the same time. So that makes it totally different. Gus! Gus! Come! And I guess that's all I got to say. Teach your children well. I think I've quoted that before by those famous philosophers, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Although, that's another story.